Good morning, everyone. I continue to talk on this text, opening with the hand of thought. This morning I talk on one paragraph, page 105, the third paragraph of page 105. When we are doing Zazen, does this mean that thoughts no longer arise and that our heads become empty? No, of course not. As long as we are alive, it is only natural that various thoughts arise, even when we are doing Zazen. What is crucial is to let them come and go of themselves without pursuing them or driving them out. For example, a thought comes up. If we follow it, then we are thinking and no longer sitting Zazen, even though we are in the Zazen posture. In Zazen, it is important not to chase after thoughts. On the other hand, when a thought comes up, should we try to wipe it out? If we do, then we end up thinking that we have to try to wipe out that thought. Rather, when doing Zazen, we commit everything to the posture without chasing after or chasing out thoughts. In the same way, when we take the Zazen posture, if we doze off, we are napping and not doing Zazen. Just as doing Zazen is not thinking while sitting, neither is it napping or dozing off while sitting. Therefore, full of vigor, we just aim at the correct Zazen posture with our flesh and bones. Just practice this is doing Zazen. In the previous paragraph, Okumura Roshi said, thinking even when we sit in this upright posture facing the wall, if we are thinking, that is not Zazen. And when we are sleeping, that is not Zazen. Then he asked a question in this paragraph. The question is, when we are doing Zazen, does this mean that thoughts no longer arise and that our heads become empty? Unfortunately not. That is a problem. That means as far as we are thinking, that is not Zazen, but thoughts are somehow come and go even in our Zazen. So we have to understand what we should do with this thing happening. And not only thinking, as I always said, even when we sit upright with upright posture facing the wall, we can do two more things. One is thinking, another is sleeping. So what shall we do with thinking and sleeping during this just sitting? So these two are the two main obstacles or problems or difficulties we experience in our Zazen. Okumura Roshi discussed these two because Dogen Zenji mentioned these two problems in our Zazen in Fukanza Zengi. What Dogen use is kon and san. Better. Sun.
That's the new one.
And Kong is an abbreviation of Kon-chin. And San is an abbreviation of San-ran. In Fukan Zazen, Dogen said, in our Zazen, from the beginning, both Kong and San are struck down, and Kong and San is dullness. In my translation, dullness and distraction. Kong literally means dark, and Chin is thinking. Thinking like a sinking in the water, into the water. That means our mind go down and dark and not vigorous, not active. And sleeping or dozing is one of the examples, or main point of Kon-chin. And san means to scatter, and ran is confusion. Our mind go everywhere, and we don't know what's happening. Those two are major problems in our Zazen. But of course, these two are not only the problems we have. In Hokyoki, Dogen recorded his conversation with his teacher, Tendo Nyojo or Rujin, and they discussed about Zazen. And Nyojo or Rujin said, Zazen is dropping off body and mind. Or beginning he said, Sanzen is dropping off body and mind. Dropping off body and mind is a Shinjin Datsurak. Shin body, another Shin mind, and that is to take off, and the rak is to fall down. And I translate this datsurak as drop off. So when we grasp something, it doesn't go down. But when we open our hand, it go down. Something grasped by our thinking is fall down. That is what Shinjin Datsurak means. And this Shinjin, as I always say, is our five skandhas, body and mind. Form or rupa skandha is our body, and other four skandhas, what is for? Sensation, perception, formation, and consciousness. Those are our function of our minds. And as I often say these days, when those five skandhas work together, somehow we create a concept of I or ego, and we grasp this and think this is me, and this is most important. That is a very basic, this ego attachment is a very basic problem. We don't see five skandhas are a collection of different elements, but we grasp these five skandhas as me or I, and this is most important, and this is the only one. And this I operate these five skandhas, even though I is produced by five skandhas. Somehow five skandhas think I is the owner or the operator of five skandhas. That is a kind of a upside down way of thinking, but that is how we usually think and live. So letting go of thought or opening the hand of thought means we let go of clinging to this I or ego or the self. And that is what is, in my understanding, that is what is said in the Heart Sutra, seeing the emptiness of five skandhas. When we see five skandhas are empty, that means it's no fixed entity. And these are just a collection of elements. Then we see there's no way to grasp or clinging to. That is what opening the hand of thought means. So when we open the hand of thought, we see five skandhas are empty. Or five skandhas are simply five skandhas. Instead of grasping these five skandhas as me. In my understanding, that is what dropping of body and mind means. Anyway, when Rojin said Sanzen practice Zen is dropping of body and mind, Dogen asked, what is dropping of body and mind? And I translate that conversation in this book, Realizing the Genjo Koan. Let me read from the beginning of the conversation. He said, Rojin said, Sanzen is dropping off body and mind. We don't use incense burning, making prostrations, nembutsu, or reciting the Buddha's name, the practice of repentance, or reading sutras. We only engaging in just sitting, so we just sit. Then Dogen asked, what is dropping of body and mind? So he asked, what is Shinjin Datsurak? Then Rojin or Nyojo said, dropping of body and mind is Zazen. He said, practice Zen or Zazen is dropping of body and mind. It sounds like, dropping of practice Zen or Zazen is a cause, and Shinjin Datsurak is a result. When we practice Zazen, we can get this thing called dropping of body and mind. So he asked, so dropping of body and mind is not Zazen itself, but it's some kind of a good result caused by our practice Zazen. Probably that was what Dogen thought. So he asked them, what is dropping of body and mind? Then Nyojo said, dropping of body and mind is Zazen. So Zazen is itself dropping of body and mind. I think this is a really important point in our practice. Then Dogen asked again, if we part from the five desires, and I'm sorry, before that, Nyojo said, Nyojo continued, after dropping off body and mind is Zazen, he continued, when we just practice Zazen, that means when we just sit, we part from the five desires and move the five coverings. So in this Zazen, we part from five desires and remove the five coverings. So dropping of body and mind is nature of our Zazen. It's not a good kind of a reward we can get through our practice of Zazen. Zazen is itself dropping of body and mind. And he said, when we just sit, we part from the five desires and five coverings. So not only two, but Rujin mentioned 5 desires and 5 coverings. Five desires is go yoku. Literally 5 desires. And those 5 desires are desires caused when our 5 sense organs encounter with the object of 5 sense organs. That means eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and sound, color or shape and sound, and smell, taste, and touch. Those are 5 sense organs and 5 objects of the sense organs. When sense organ encounter with the object, something happening in our mind. That is called consciousness. Eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose, tongue, and body consciousness. And those are desires. Whether when these are these give us a pleasant sensation, we like them, and we want to keep them with us, with me. And if they give us unpleasant sensation, then we don't like this. So like and dislike are both two sides of desire. So those are 5 desires. And Rujin said, in our Zazen, we are free from 5 desires. Because when we are sitting facing the wall, there's no such object. So there's no such subject-object relation. So that's why we are free from 5 desires. And 5 coverings is my translation of go-gai. Go is 5. Gai literally means cover or lid to put something on the container. And this gai means these 5 things covered our mind and prevent our mind function naturally or in a wholesome way. And those 5 are greed, anger or hatred, 1, 2, 3rd is swimming or sleepiness. And the 4th is distraction. And the 5th is doubt. And in another conversation between Nyojo and Dogen, Nyojo said there is another covering, that is ignorance. So, as you know, greed, anger or hatred, and ignorance are 3 poisonous minds. So Nyojo said, when we just sit, we are free from 3 poisonous minds. And those 3 poisonous minds is a cause of our transmigration within samsara. and that makes our life suffering within samsara, and we transmigrate. And this sleepiness and distraction is what Okumura Roshi is talking. So sleepiness and distraction, in this case thinking, are one of the six coverings. And about doubt, I think doubt is a problem. When we have doubt, somehow we try to stay away, try not to close. So I think doubt and question are two different things. When we have question about something, we want to get closer and to figure out. But when we have doubt, we stay away. We try not to try to do it. But if we practice with doubt, that means even if we are sitting with doubt, then this doesn't. It's not. We cannot really 100% be there. We are always doubting what is this. So that kind of a medicine for doubt, of course, is a faith. So in practice, just sitting, we need a faith. And about the faith, Okumura Roshi, faith in Zazen, he said in this text, page 84. Here, faith is, we use belief. And he said, belief in Buddhism is not to believe something which is said as a doctrine by some kind of authority. But he said, faith in Buddhism is kind of a trust in ourselves. Okumura Roshi says as follows: belief or faith in Buddhism is to become clear and pure in actualizing the reality of universal life. Universal life means we are connected with everything, interconnected origination. So we have a trust or faith that we are connected with everything. So this is not simply a dogma, but we can see that reality. But we have also questions and doubt about this. And often, or too often, we think there's a separation. I'm living by myself. Because of my effort, I can live in this way. I can live this way without help by anyone or anything. But that is a kind of a upside down way of thinking, because we cannot live without air or water or food or someone's teaching or information. So we are really living together with all beings. But somehow we need to believe this, or we need to have trust and faith in this reality, because too often we have question or we have opposite idea. So he said, belief is to become clear and pure in actualizing the reality of universal life. We are in fact constantly living out life that pervades everything and goes beyond, our individual thoughts. But we easily lose sight of this, easily or too often lose sight of this and become confused. We get carried away by the ideas of our small individual self. Just like the squashes, a little bit before this paragraph, he discussed about the squashes fighting each other. And the priest asked squash, feel the top of their heads. Then they found there is a connection with each other, that squash. So we get carried away by the idea of our small individual self, just like the squashes that got carried away and started fighting. In the Zen, we let go of thoughts, lower our level of excitement, and leave the universal self just truly being self. This is a basic meaning of belief. So the very act of doing Zazen is an expression of our belief. So our Zazen is expression of our faith. And this, not idea, but this understanding of faith came from also Dogen. In what I'm doing in these talks on this opening the hand of thought is, Uchiyama is trying express his understanding of Dharma without using traditional Buddhist terms. So his writing or his expressions are very colloquial and understandable. Therefore, we think we understand what he's saying. But almost everything he's saying based on some kind of Buddhist teaching, Shakyamunis or Mahayana or Dogen. So one of the things I'm trying to do in this Dharma talk is to translate Uchiyama Roshi's colloquial expression into traditional Buddhist terms. His understanding, Uchiyama Roshi's understanding of faith in the Zen came from Dogen's sayings in Gakudo Yojinshu. Gakudo Yojinshu is point to watch in practicing or studying the way. This is a collection of 10 independent essays. And this appeared in the ninth article. The title of ninth article is You Should Practice Toward the Way. And Dogen says, practitioners of the way must first of all have faith in the way. So he said, first of all, we need to have a faith in the way. Way, in this case, the Buddha's way. And he said, those who have faith in the Buddha way must believe that one, or the self, or each one of us, one is within the way from the beginning. That means we are already in the way. So we are not outside of the Buddha way. We are already inside. We have to believe that. And second, that you are free from delusive desires. We are free from delusive desires. That means even though we have desires and we are moved by desires, basically there's no such desires. Delusive desire. Delusive means not real thing. Real thing is only 5 skandhas get together. And somehow we think, this desire is real thing, but actually this desire is delusive, means not real thing. So as a basic reality, we are free from delusive desires. That means we can live without fulfilling those desires. That means we can let go. We don't need to take action based on those desires. Of course, desires are there. It's difficult to live if we don't have desire for food. Without appetite, it's really difficult to eat. Okumura Roshi had that problem, because his lung didn't function. At least half of his lung didn't function. So, especially in the hot and humid summer in Kyoto, he had difficulty to even breathe, and he didn't have appetite at all. And yet he had to eat. And he said, this is very difficult practice, to eat without desire or appetite. So he asked us to grind the brown rice and make like a dumpling, and he almost vomit. Vomit will come out.
Yes.
It's opposite. Without biting or tasting or desires. It's really a difficult practice for him, and he practiced in this way almost entire his life. So he said, having desire or having appetite is a blessing. We need to, appreciate our desire. So desire is not something negative if it's not delusive. Desire can be a necessity of our life to keep alive, keep living. But desire can grow, and we have desire to something we don't need, or we desire more than we need. So our appetite to food to keep us alive, and desire to eat a kind of a very fancy food, expensive food at a luxurious restaurant, and having appetite, I think it's two different things. So those delusive desires can be cut off to live, but having a desire for eating is important to live. So we need to make a kind of a distinction between our need to live and desire more than we need. Not only food, but also about money and other things. So our important practice is to see how much is enough, how much we need, and how much is enough. Here we are. Anyway, Dogen's saying. So he said, we need to believe, or he said, believe that we are free from delusive desires and upside down ways of seeing things. Upside down ways of seeing things. The very basic, fundamental upside down way of being things is, even though this I or ego or Atman is a production of five skandhas, we think our five skandhas is owned by this I or ego, and to kind of serve to this I is the meaning of our life. That is very basic upside down way of doing things. And based on that upside down way view, we create many kind of more upside down or way of thinking. What is more important? And often we think money is most important. Money is important to live, in this modern society. But even we have, millions of dollars. If we don't have water, we cannot live, or air, or food. But because we think air is free, always there, we don't see the importance of the air or the water. Traditionally in Japan, it said air and water are free. But now water is not free. We have to purchase the water. But we still think, air is free. But anyway, so we need to believe that we are free from upside down way of seeing things. Or excess or deficiencies and mistakes. We are free from all of them. So this is the faith that is a kind of a medicine of this doubt. So in our practice as a Buddha student, we need to have this kind of faith in the reality of our life, that we can live without delusive desires and the upside down way of things. That's how we become free from doubt. And those three poisonous mind is came from this structure, separation between subject and object. And when we encounter with something we like, we have greed. And when we encounter with something we don't like, we have anger or hatred. And ignorance is about this upside down way of doing things. Ignorance is basically seeing or thinking this I or ego or Atman is there. We cannot see the emptiness of five skandhas. That is ignorance. So as for the practice, actual practice of Zazen, these two, sleepiness and distraction, are the concrete problems for us. But we need to understand these two are not only problems for our Zazen, but those 5 desires and 5 or 6 coverings are the problems or difficulties or obstacles for our Zazen. And Dogen's teacher Nyojo said, in this just sitting, although we are free from those 5 desires and 5 coverings, he said, if we practice Zazen, for a certain period of time, we can become free from these obstacles. But Nyojo said, within this Zazen, we are free from those 5 desires and 5 obstacles. That is why Dogen could say, this Zazen is the Dharma gate of peace and joy. Peace and joy is a translation of unluck. An is peace, and raku is joy. And unraku is the opposition of ku, yak. both ku and yak means suffering. And ku-yak is a translation of Sanskrit word dukkha. And anraku is sukha. And this ku-yak is the expression appeared in the Heart Sutra. Kanji zai bosatsu kyojin hanya hara mitaji shouken go unkai ku do issai ku-yak. So that is what the Heart Sutra said. When Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva practiced deep prajna paramita. And what Dogen is basically saying is our zazen is practicing prajna paramita. Then Avalokiteshvara sees the emptiness of five skandhas and released from all ku-yak sufferings. So what he is saying is zazen is itself release from suffering. Zazen is itself prajna. Zazen is itself seeing the five skandhas. Actually, in the sentence of the Heart Sutra, it says Avalokiteshvara sees the emptiness of five skandhas. But there's no such thing called Avalokiteshvara beside the five skandhas. So Avalokiteshvara is five skandhas. If there's such things called Avalokiteshvara beside five skandhas, and Avalokiteshvara sees five skandhas, then what is this? That causes another problem. So in my understanding of this sentence, five skandhas sees the emptiness of five skandhas. And this thing is itself prajna. So there's no such separation between subject and object, Avalokiteshvara and five skandhas. And that is what is happening in our zazen. There's no such separation between person sitting and five skandhas, this body and mind. This body and mind is sitting. And these five skandhas are only think they are. But within five skandhas, all different kind of upside down way of viewing things happening. And what we do in our zazen is open our hand. This is how we are released from all upside down way of viewing things, and we are free from suffering.
The word raku,
Mhm.
raku, and you said joy,
Mhm.
and the three mind kishin is translated as joyous mind.
Mhm.
That's ki, and then it's joy. And then the raku also, I mean, I know that raku can also be translated as like a ease.
Mhm.
And I like having that kind of quality. Joy is wonderful, but sitting, you don't have to make effort to, do things, but just ease. So, I mean, easy. So, and just if people know that word, raku also means ease.
The joyful mind in three minds is kishin. And there is an expression such as a hoki. Ho, dharma, joy. So this kishin or joyful mind in sanshin or three mind is the joyful mind of dharma or in dharma. And another word about joy or joy is zen. It's zen is zazen, and it is also joy or delight. And hoki and zennet appeared in the short verse we chant before meals, not formal oryoki meal, but in informal meals we I think in this country, at the San Francisco Zen Center, they chant this the verse. I forget. Do you remember? Delight in Dharma and joy in Zen, something like that. I forget. Anyway, so this joy is not a kind of a emotional, joy, but more, how can I say, serene joy within Dharma.
So could you talk a little bit more about raku, the character raku, as you translate?
What shall I say?
Different character, and then raku also means ease, right? Am I right? I think. One of the meaning.
Ease or comfortable. I don't know the difference between etsu and ki and raku. We can make, these make compound like etsu raku or ki raku. These are kind of a combination of joy and blessing and bliss and delight. I don't know what the difference between joy and delight, happiness. Anyway, that is the opposition of dukkha or suffering. Please.
At least in the West, I think of joy as being pretty dramatic.
Dramatic.
Yeah, like
Emotional, lifting.
Celebration.
Mm.
Christmas, for instance, the word joy is
Is there any other form much more deeper, profound, and serene joy?
Contentment is a kind of ease.
Yes, ease or serenity, peacefulness, bliss.
Bliss.
Yes.
Bliss.
Yeah, but bliss is like kind of not here. It's blissful. It's an altered state. It's an altered state.
So suffering means samsara, and this sukha means nirvana. So it's not emotional, exciting joy, but more kind of a quiet, serene, deep joy.
So why you translated anraku as peace and joy instead of peace and ease? Or I'm just curious.
I don't know.
Raku.
If there's more better English, I'll change the translation. Please.
Here's a question. So, suppose that in Zazen, someone realizes this and there's no more suffering, but then how permanent is that? How lasting, or does it stay?
It's less than one moment.
That's what I thought.
Same as the thinking in our zazen. When we let go, it disappears less than one moment, but next moment it comes back, and we have to deal with it moment by moment. So as a bodhisattva practice, samsara and nirvana are interpenetrated. So we should not escape from samsara and clinging to nirvana because of our vow, bodhisattva vow. We have to stay within samsara. And if we don't have difficulties or problems or suffering, sadness, we cannot work with other people who are suffering. So this is what Uchamuro said. As for bodhisattva practice, or as a bodhisattva, the problems we have, or sadness, pain, suffering, is a kind of what is the word? Money for starting business, capital. If we don't have that kind of experience of suffering, pain, and experience of being fully released from those pain or suffering or problems, we cannot help others. If we have no problem at all from our life, we cannot be a bodhisattva. We can have sympathy because to other people because we have suffering. And our practice is not eliminate all suffering to live with other people. That is why our zazen, or the purpose or goal of our zazen is eliminating our thought. Thought creates samsara. We let go of thought and we are released from thought or upside down way of viewing things. But still upside of viewing things are there, even though we let go. So both are there. That's why we can understand other people, not only other people. We can have a compassion to ourselves. So in bodhisattva practice, both are there. So our practice is not to escape from samsara, but our practice is experience that we don't need to be in samsara. And yet we don't escape from samsara. We can be released from clinging to this, ego or the self. But even when we open our hand, ego-centered thoughts are still coming and going, and we don't kill them. So that thought, ego-centered or delusive thought, is in a sense important. That is because of our delusion. We can understand how people function or works or act in a delusive way, because we do the same thing. That is the basis of compassion for bodhisattva. So even though thinking is not zazen, we don't eliminate thinking. And even though sleeping is not zazen, we need certain amount of sleep. Of course, try not to sleep during zazen. But in order to practice zazen without sleepiness, we have to, we have to regulate our daily lives. Traditionally, sleepiness is called sui-ma. Sui is sleep or sleepiness, and ma is demon. And that is the reason in the Zendo, someone is walking with kyosaku or hitting stick to help people who are sitting not sleep. And I think that is important, not to sleep. But at Antaiji, we didn't use kyosaku because of Uchiyama Roshi's understanding that we need certain amount of sleep, sufficient sleep. Otherwise, somehow we, as a living beings, will have problems. This understanding came from his own experience of Saoki Roshi's sesshin. circular session, they literally sat 24 hours. They start to sit at 2 in the morning until probably 6 in the morning, and have breakfast and lunch and supper, 3 meals. But those 3 meals are taken within the same posture. So they didn't stop sitting. So they keep sitting and walking meditation. And they Sawaki Roshi's disciples had 2 sessions a month. One is a session with Sawaki Roshi, and during this session, they had Sawaki Roshi's lecture and probably chanting and oryoki meals and possibly work period. But they had another session, that is this kind of session. So without teacher, they simply sit 24 hours for, I think, 7 days. And Uchiyama Roshi practiced that kind of session for 3 years from the very beginning of his ordination. And he found such a strict way of sitting is not meaningful, because we need certain amounts of sleep to be in a healthy condition. Otherwise, we'll have some very abnormal condition of mind. We cannot see the distinction between reality and dream or illusion. So after he became the abbot of Antaiji, he modified the schedule, and he started to sleep 7 hours from 9 to 4, and he sat 14 period a day. He said 7 hours is pretty sufficient sleep, so there's no excuse not to sleep. No excuse to sleep during the Zen. But still we are sleeping, especially when I was young. And now I don't need so much sleep, or I cannot sleep so much. But in my 20s, I could sleep even 24 hours a day, like a baby. And sleeping is one of the very difficult problems for us. And when I started to practice, for first few years, I couldn't sleep. Because the main problem in my sitting was pain. For first few years, I had a pain on my ankles, knees, and hips, and sometimes on my back. When I sat 5-day session, I couldn't believe someone could sleep in this posture. But after a few years, fortunately, I became free from pain. I think because I started to sit when I was pretty young. My body was still flexible, so my body could adjust to this posture. And especially in Japan, until I became 10 years old, in my home, in my house, there's no chair, no high table. So we literally sit on the floor, except when I was at school. In the classroom in the school, we had a chair and a desk, but we didn't. So sitting was something very natural to me or Japanese people until my generation. When I think I became 10 years old or so, my parents bought a desk and chair, and even the eating table we had a high table, so we started not to sit on the floor. So people younger than me in Japan had the same problem for American people. Sitting is very unnatural posture. But because of that, I was familiar with sitting. Sitting itself was not so difficult, but to sit in cross-legged and keep my posture upright was kind of unusual thing. So first few years I had a pain, but after a few years pain is gone. And when I'm free from the problem of pain, I start to sleep. And I found there are two different kind of sleepiness. One is I was sleepy when I didn't have sufficient sleep, and this is a very natural thing. When we don't have sufficient sleep, we become sleepy, and often we sleep. But I found that there is another kind of sleepiness. Even when I had enough sufficient sleep, still I was sleepy. And this kind of sleepiness is very comfortable. Unfortunately, that was a problem. I mean, when we have a serious problem in our mind, we cannot sleep. So sleepiness means our mind is peaceful. So it's not completely bad thing. But sleepiness brings a lot of fantasies, something unreal. And sleepiness, that kind of sleepiness in our zazen is kind of dangerous. We cannot see the clear distinction between dream and actual sitting with clear awakening. One time when I was a university student, we drank and talked until early morning. And after a few hours of sleep, we went to Zazenkai with my friend. And we sat for a few hours, and I thought I was sleepy, but I didn't move, and I didn't sleep, but my friend was moving like this, so he was sleeping, but I didn't sleep. That was what I thought. But after a few hours of zazen, my friend said the same thing. So even when I don't think I'm sleeping, actually I'm sleeping. So it's kind of interesting, but very kind of dangerous. We don't see whether we are really sleeping and dreaming or awakening and thinking. And there are various kind of a degree of sleepiness. Sometimes we are almost awake, but sometimes for a short period we fall into sleep. Or sometimes we have 100% sleep. In my 20s, I started to sleep right after the bell was ring, three hit. And when I woke up, the second two hit of bell. So entire 50 minutes I was sleeping, and it was really comfortable. But that was a problem. So, within this various kind of degree of sleepiness, so many interesting and strange things happens. So I think in Zen practice, traditionally it said there are many different kind of makyo. Makyo is a condition of demon. And I think makyo happened within this kind of condition. In our zazen, we try not to sleep, and yet my body wants to sleep. So there is a conflict. When we really sleep in the bed, our both body and mind want to sleep, so 100%. But here there is a conflict. This conflict creates all different kind of condition of our mind. Sometimes 100% sleeping and 100% dreaming, but another time almost awake, but somehow our mind is sleepy, or half and half, and all different kind of things happening within this condition. So when we are sleepy during zazen because of lack of sufficient sleep, I think best way is to take a nap, to go to bed and sleep for a while and return to the zendo. But we have to kind of make effort to become free from another kind of sleepiness. And one time when I had this problem, one time I put a needle on my koromo and tried to sting to wake up, but I found it didn't work. When I was really asleep, I forgot about the needle, so I didn't continue it. But I think we have to make effort not to sleep. Anyway, I'm sorry, it's already 11:20. Anyway, any question or comments? Please.
Is there something like opening the hand of sleep? Like sometimes I feel in the morning, especially, I think I'm just not a morning person in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I often, I don't really fall asleep like completely
Uh-huh.
all the time, but I'll be trying to stay awake, and then I just kind of for a few seconds fall asleep, and then
Yeah.
back up, and it's
Mm.
just the whole time. It's like
That is
in and out of
that's a very natural condition in the early morning.
Yeah. But it's sort of similar to opening the hand of thought, I think, because, normally you have thoughts coming and going, and you're just letting them come and go, and it sort of seems similar, you have the sleepy sort of dreams
Mm.
coming and going, all in the same way.
When we are sleeping that way, I think have a deep breath and put fresh air inside might be helpful. Or sometimes I, rub around my ears. That might be helpful. Or sometimes you. But that kind of sleepiness is not so serious problems. Please.
So, do you think that keeping your eyes open
Mm.
in zazen helps to stay awake?
I think so. At least that is main reason we keep our eyes open. At some Buddhist tradition, when they meditate, they keep their eyes closed.
Mm-hmm.
But in Zen tradition, we keep our eyes open because when we close our eyes, we easily fall into sleep. Or even we don't sleep, we have some kind of daydreaming.